The blood's wrong.
Okay, let's talk about MaXXXine. This is our review. No spoilers. Spoilers tomorrow in our full spoilerific video that's coming for MaXXXine. There will be no spoilers here, so don't worry. MaXXXine is the finale to the X trilogy, and with it, we have come to say goodbye to MaXXXine Minx. However, Ty West has said that they might continue the X trilogy with some other characters. I don't know who yet, but we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. But let's talk about this movie and where it ranks in the trilogy for me. Before we get into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We just hit 31,000 subscribers right now. Super excited about that. We're on the road to 35,000 before the end of the month. I think we can do that. Make sure you follow us on our website as well as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all provided down below. And let's get into the review for MaXXXine. So like I said, I was a huge fan of this trilogy. When I first heard Ty West was doing a new movie after a long hiatus, I was excited. Opening night, I sat in the theater to watch X. I saw the post-credit scene, which was the trailer to Pearl. I watched Pearl opening night again, and I was excited when I heard they were doing MaXXXine. So we waited and we anticipated what it was going to be, and we made a ton of videos, a ton of theories and stuff like that. And I will say we got pretty close by my last video I did. But before we get into that, that's going to be in a whole video tomorrow with the spoilers. Let's talk about what I liked and didn't like about the film. Let's start off with what I really liked, and that is of course the 80s sleaze with some giallo sprinkled in, because one thing Ty West and Mia Goth are going to do is they're going to make a love letter not just to horror but to cinema, and the 80s are all over this, B-horror movie, giallo, all of that, and it definitely shows that they are passionate about film. Now, I do think that we have some of the most star-studded cast of the summer in this film. You have Halsey, Kevin Bacon, you also have Giancarlo Esposito, you have Michelle Monaghan, you have Bobby Cannavale, you have Moses, and you were going to pack this one and showcase some real talent, and you do. Lily Collins and Elizabeth Debicki as well really pack a punch. There is something here really well done with the cast because none of them are weak in this. They are all strong. There's some of these casts that are included in the film that don't have more than 5 minutes of presence in the film, but it is felt throughout and they are memorable by the end of it. Now, where the film starts to sort of fall apart for me, however, is when it comes to its story, which I feel is its weakest link. It feels very hollow, very fragile, and it is fragile because after a key scene at the end of the second act, the third act just falls apart and it's just free falling, and you're just there like, oh man, this is just like, what is going on? Because up until that point, the film starts off strong. It starts running, and it is one of the best openings in the film trilogy, I feel. But then as we start to sort of get into more of the whole thing, the story, what's going on here, it starts to really crumble on its own, because I think it starts off great with this whodunit mystery slasher type vibe, and then there's like these amazing kills going on that are very creepy and eerie. But then as that third act starts to start, it really starts going in an opposite direction. It's like MaXXXine does a complete left and it leaves you so disoriented. It was very jarring how the film's pacing and tone really shifted in another level. And I don't know what was the deal here. I think maybe it was like they were trying to wrap it up really quick, and my thing was maybe they should have cut it more or added more time, because you're just left there like, okay, what are we doing here right now? Because for the most part, I think the first two acts are solid. They do have some great scenes in it. There was a lot of moments I was just laughing and I was just like in awe of what was happening. I think Giancarlo Esposito and Kevin Bacon got the 80s sleaze right, and you loved seeing them on screen. Every time they were coming on, you were just like, oh, here we go, it's about to be good. And I'm not saying anybody else in this is weak or any of that. I'm just saying these two really had it down to a T with the 80s. The problem here was just the story in itself. It was a film that was really strong to begin with, but then it just started to crumble on its own, where I feel like X and Pearl are films that have very strong endings, and the third act sometimes really is the best part about the film, and that's a good thing because that's the last thing you really remember as you're coming out of the theater. So overall, I think that we do have a film here that works well with the trilogy as a whole. This trilogy is great, but I think MaXXXine as a standalone is very weak, and it really doesn't stand up to the other two. Mia Goth is great in it. She always plays the part right of MaXXXine Minx. In here, there are moments, however, where I feel like you don't really get that MaXXXine you knew. And of course, MaXXXine is dealing with stuff from the past and all that, but it just felt very out of character sometimes, and like the character was trying to be two different characters at the same time. I will say too that some of the editing choices here, specifically the introduction of having some flashbacks and all of that, really takes you out of the film. And at first it was working, like, don't get me wrong. There's a scene at the beginning where MaXXXine is getting fitted for this like casting of a wax or some sort of thing, and they start having these flashbacks to the bar and to X and all of that, and it works, it really does. But then we start getting those flashbacks be shown for other things later on in the film, and I'm just like, I don't know if we needed that. Like, I felt like the movie wanted to hold my hand and say, hey, remember this? That's why this is important, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I remember that. You didn't have to show that. And it kind of just takes you out of that moment there. And it really does cheapen it a bit, in my opinion. Like, there are some things that just, I don't know, I didn't understand what it was done for, what the intention was, and it just left me there thinking, yeah, this is not what I expected at all. But I'm not hating on the movie or anything whatsoever. Like, I still enjoyed it. I will say MaXXXine is a must-see if you're a fan of Mia Goth, Ty West, especially if you're a fan of the X trilogy. If you're just looking for a good time and all of that, definitely check it out. It'll give you some laughs, a good couple of scares here and there, and it just has some cool imagery to begin with. I mean, that's the thing with MaXXXine. It is a cool movie with a lot of vibes, a lot of aesthetics, and it's still a really decent time. However, when I'm judging it with X and Pearl right next to it, there is no way I can say MaXXXine is amazing like that, because those other two movies, in my opinion, are near perfect. I will say MaXXXine is my least favorite film in the X trilogy, and it only works with those two being watched right before it. So overall, MaXXXine has great acting, it has some amazing visuals and aesthetics, a killer score, and of course Mia Goth doing their thing. But the story in itself is not there, and that's where the film really crumbles, especially in its final act that just felt rushed, and it just felt like an afterthought, honestly. So we give MaXXXine a 3.5 out of 5, and if you want comparisons, we gave X and Pearl 4.7s, or a 5 even, I think. So that's where it's at for me. It's a whole star below it, the other ones, and it's still decent, but it's not all there. Let me know what you thought about MaXXXine, if you enjoyed it or not. I may be wrong, you may be right, I don't know, but that's just my opinion. Kind of disappointed, to be honest, but we'll talk more in the spoilers video tomorrow, what exactly I was disappointed in. Let me know your thoughts. Follow for more on things you love. We got a ton of videos on long legs right now, which is coming out next week, so go check those out if you want. And we got the spoiler MaXXXine video coming out tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed, notification bell on. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.